the main thing is that I've become known for advocating for this idea that UFOs and the aliens are actually our time-traveling future human descendants. I wouldn't even say as opposed to extraterrestrials, because I do think that's a component too. I oftentimes get pigeonholed. People are like, oh, you just think they're all time travelers. I don't. I actually say this all the time, but it doesn't matter. I do think there's a lot going on. But my background and the reason I approach this question this way is because there's a lot of characteristics of these aliens that look so hominin. They look just like us. And specifically what we'd expect to see in our hominin future if the same evolutionary trends continue into the future. So I kind of just tie those things together. And even the saucer-shaped craft seemingly are time machines themselves. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes version.
Well, it's a theory that a lot of people have independently sort of come to, right?
Yeah, especially recently.
And the concept of, well, just if you just think about ancient man, I was watching this documentary on Neanderthals last night about this one intact Neanderthal skeleton that they found that was, it had sort of been, he had died in a cave, and you know there's stalagmites. Is stalactites or mites? How do you say it?
Tights are up, mites are down.
So he was essentially mineralized.
Mm-hmm.
There was stuff all over the body, and it took a long time for them to break this body.
I think I saw that. Was that on Netflix?
No, I was watching it on YouTube. Maybe originally it was on
okay.
Netflix. But it was just documenting how strange this body was that they had found, but it was immensely strong, like much stronger than us. One of the interesting things was that their visual cortex, the part of the brain that would process imagery, was larger than ours, 10 to 20% larger.
Yeah.
And that so these things probably had better eyesight than us, perhaps even were able to see at night, and that this was a bigger, stronger version of a human being, like much more durable than what we are, modern 2025 Homo sapiens.
Yep.
If you just look, yeah, that's it. So that's one of them.
That's cool.
Neither human nor Neanderthal.
Oh, really?
This is a published.
Is this the same? This might not be the same one. This is maybe a different one. That's a weird one because what's that fucking thing on its head?
That's what it says. It's a stalactite growing out of it. Or something.
Wow, in a weird form. Weird.
Yeah, it's like a unicorn.
Yeah, like a crest.
They do have a sagittal ridge.
Yes.
Homo erectus had one. There's an offshoot in our hominin lineage called Paranthropus, or robust Australopithecines, and they had a full-on like gorilla-style sagittal ridge. Yeah, because they were vegetarians, so they just chewed all day.
Right, so they had massive muscles to chew.
Yeah, their whole face is huge.
Wow.
Neanderthals kind of, I mean, they were just big. It's
Yeah.
just a robusticity thing, but there is evidence from Shanidar Cave in Iraq where they were using their teeth as tools. We think they were like tanning hides. They were holding the hide in their mouth and then like scraping all the nasty bits. Yeah, you just tied together like a lot of really important points related to this theory. Aspects of why they're always interested in our gametes, why they come back and put that little machine on a man to collect semen, why they're constantly taking eggs from females and implanting fetuses, pulling them back out later. Like they're clearly focused on reproduction, gamete extraction, and one of the things that might be fueling that in the future, if these are future humans, let's just assume for a second hypothetically, is that they might be having problems directly resulting from these trends toward self-domestication, these trends toward feminization, these trends toward reduced sperm counts, which is 60% across most populations of the world, in the industrialized world, 50% across the entire world. Problems with reproduction, in vitro fertilization, exogenesis chambers might help solve some of those problems, growing the fetus outside of the body. So yeah, and like you said, what do they look like? They look like kind of a hybrid between males and females to some extent, but there's still an essence of gender. Like if you talk to Whitley Strieber, he's with this being, he says in Communion that I had a sense that she was a woman. I don't know why, but I kind of sensed that. So it's almost like the essence of the individual, the soul of the individual still retains that sort of gender identity, even though our bodies are becoming more childlike, more gender indiscriminate. I don't know, but yeah, yet another one of those ways in which we might sort of grow together as a species.
Now, when you say they are extracting sperm, like, how many of these stories do you take seriously? There's a lot of these stories.
It's a great question, yeah.
You know, there's unfortunately for any sort of spectacular public thing that's in the zeitgeist, like alien abduction, whether it's Whitley Strieber from Communion or the John Mack books, the guy from Harvard that wrote, what was it, Abduction?
Passport to the Cosmos and Abduction, yeah. 2 great books.
Great books, but these are all books about encounters, close encounters of the third kind with some sort of a being from another place. Whatever it is, it's just not a human being, and it seems to be technologically at least superior to us.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be one thing they all seem to share is they seem to be able to communicate telekinetically or telepathically.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, they aren't human, but they're very human too.
Anything that you do, if you went back in time, any interactions, you would completely change how the future would play out.
In the many worlds interpretation,
Yes.
yeah. So that idea is unfortunately very pervasive, and mostly because of Back to the Future, which I think ruined the brains of most people.
Mine too.
Certainly in my generation. But what most physicists don't agree on many things. But most agree that we live in what's called a block universe, landscape time, block time, where if you imagine all moments from the very beginning of the Big Bang to the end of the universe, where all matter disappears into like a black hole or contracts or whatever it does, all moments are already there. They exist as this massive 4-dimensional block of all moments, all world lines, everything. So you go back into the past as you perceive it, you can do whatever you want. You can walk around, step on butterflies, slap people on the face, kick over, dinosaurs or whatever. I don't think we can go back that far, but you could do anything you want, and it doesn't change anything because you're going back in the block universe and doing those things you were always already going to do. And when you get home, everything's the same because that was already their past. To everybody that stayed behind, that was already their past. It was only the future for you to go back and do those things that you were already going to do. And then you just went and did them, get home, everything's the same because you were always going to do those things in the first place.
That's bizarre. That's hard
to
swallow.
If that is the actual model of the universe, and again, I can only work, in writing these books, I can only work from what we know now. Clearly there's a lot of things we don't know. I'm not claiming to know anything beyond what we can know right now. But physicists, despite not knowing what time is, they know it's an emergent phenomenon. There's something more fundamental that time comes from. But they do agree on this block universe model. And in that case, there is no paradox.
How do they all agree on that? Like, wouldn't you have to test that and come up with some sort of a hypothesis and then try to prove it or disprove it? Like
You're right. I shouldn't say they all agree because there is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics where if you went back in that situation, it would be change. You would be changing the timeline. Would it be changing your timeline or would it be changing a different timeline is the question. And how would you know? There's more paradoxes with changing things than not changing things.
Why do you confidently state that you don't think that they can go back to the dinosaur age?
Partly because 3 different reasons. One, I think they need tremendously high speed in order to be able to go back into the past. So basically, again, working from all I can work from in this time with the limited primitive primate knowledge that I have in the year 2012 to 2025, I basically just started with Einstein's theory of relativity, which he published in 1905 on the electrodynamics of moving bodies. And then in 1915, he published his paper on general relativity. From that point on, almost instantly, there were solutions to his field equations that showed, with the right parameters of a massively highly energetic rotating ring or sphere or disk, that you could create closed time-like curves, that you could actually orient light cones back toward the past so you can physically go into the past. And we saw this with Lenz and Thurine in like 1917 and 18.
Kurt Gödel.
Gödel universe was not long after, in I think the 20s maybe. And then importantly in 1970s, you had Frank Tipler who showed mathematically that you can shrink that down to a disk. He actually called it a disk. And this is one of the reasons I think that these are time machines, is because it has all of the parameters described by Frank Tipler. He wasn't talking about UFOs, but they seemingly have the ability to jump in and out of time. They appear and disappear. And I'm talking too much, so I'll wrap this up in a second. But
you're definitely not talking too much.
well, I mean, we're here to talk, but yeah. I have an internal trigger where I'm like, shut up, Masters, you're talking too much.
Don't listen to that trigger. Let it roll.
So anyway, if you look at the history of how we understand backward time travel, what I think they're doing is that I think they're combining general relativity and special relativity. So I think they're orienting the light cones toward the past by rotating these things really, really fast. You hear that all the time. They power up, they're spinning, or at least there's some sort of flywheel on the outside that's spinning. I think that's what's allowing them to move toward the past, and then they take off. So it's that high speed that I think allows them to go further into the past. So you're aware of the twins paradox, I'm sure. Time dilation, where you have two twins, they're the same age, and then one goes into a spaceship, they move at tremendously high speed, they come back, and they're much younger than their twin because time moved faster back on Earth. I think they're using that high-speed motion while light cones are oriented toward the past in order to travel deeper into the past through that process of time dilation. There are limits to how fast we can go. Einstein was very adamant about this because there's an increase in inertial forces the faster you go relative to the speed of light. That's why he thought we could never go. That's why he thought that anything with mass could never go faster than the speed of light. Light can do it because it's a wave or a particle or both. So I think there's a limit to how fast we can go. The other reason is because Jim Peniston in this hypnotic regression said that. He's like, we can only go 40 to 60,000 years into the past or we might not get back. You also have, and this is a more speculative one, so take it for what it's worth, you also have the Dan Burrish testimony of this J-Rod, this allegedly captured alien, who said, we're from the future. We are you from the future, and we're from about 55 to 60,000 years in your future. So those three things together are why I don't think we could go back 65 million years to hunt dinosaurs, which actually would be kind of fun.